All right. So, I am reacting to the Fantastic Four First Steps trailer. Came out the other day. Movie's coming out on July 25th, 2025. I'm gonna start off to and kind of be transparent about where I'm standing in this whole Marvel Universe thing. Um, the last movie I watched and actually know what happened was Deadpool and Wolverine. Um, but before that, I think the only other movie I'd watched in between was that was the Doctor Strange movie. Yeah. Only reason, or maybe it's the only one that's standing out to me right now because it wasn't was it was not great. Just not great as far as storytelling goes. Making Wanda out to be just confusing move set, right? She's got a massive kit of moves there, and I just make them a little more specific, a little like just specify things a little bit. I oh just I know she's all about chaos magic and all of that, and just let's let's kind of rein in the chaos a little bit for the viewer, just a bit. Mm, yeah, that's where I kind of sort of hopped off, came back for Wolverine and Deadpool, but anything in between, second season of What If, I know that already came out. Loki season 2, that already came out. Didn't watch any of that. Um, I know they're basically starting from zero. They were very much on the train to getting Kang the Conqueror in there as their big bad for the next phase of Marvel, and that kind of fell through for obvious reasons. Whew. But what can you do? What can you do? The movie is going to live or die based on who you cast as some of these characters. And if the person's embroiled in some kind of controversy, unless you're the Flash, but that movie sucked. And yeah, yeah, didn't really help them too much at the box office. Ooh, we'll get to DC in another video. But let's focus up. The Fantastic Four first steps. Move the This is a sort of, I don't know if I would call this a origin story movie. And I kind of appreciate that. And maybe that's my own bias saying, "Oh, they're finally getting to a movie where we're hitting the ground running. We're in the middle of like our hero's story and we're kind of catching up a little bit with a couple narrative devices here and there." I hope that's the case. The first thing that we see is Mr. Fantastic and Invisible Woman Sue Storm walking. I don't know who. I can't quite tell who the person is that is following them through their penthouse. I can't really take a guess. It's not like it's like the it's not like it's Stark or anything. It's just some old guy. Um but yeah, he's being led around, showing him the lay of the very nice apartment but that immediately we see, hey, it's a kind of 60s ish, 70s ish vibe here. Wait, what? Why are we are we doing a retro thing here? Are we what are we trying to do here? And the next thing we see is Ben Grimm in some fairly I'm gonna hand it to the CGI, the CG sort of team. They did a good job with Ben Grimm and what he looks like. His Yeah, he is CG. We're not doing practical effects. We're not sitting down poor actors in chairs and just gluing stuff to their faces. I appreciate that just for the sake of the actor at this point. There are some stories, some characters where I could say, yeah, just do that. It makes sense, but not for people like Ben Grimm. That is like a lot of thick, I just really thick makeup and plaster and just it must be sweltering in there. So yeah, totally understand CG Ben Grimm thing. He's talking to Robbie, their little robot butler guy. Uh, uh, just preparing dinner, doing a normal family thing. And that's going to be a big kind of theme throughout the trailer. Family. We're trying to really hammer home this is the first family of Marvel. We don't want you to be confused about who we're talking about here, what their dynamic is, despite, this isn't really a traditional family. But you can get away from that. A little bit further into the trailer, we start talking about some of Reed Richards' regrets, kind of looking at this brilliant scientist bringing his friends and family, people he cares about, on this obviously dangerous mission, and exposing them to these cosmic rays that transform each and every, like all of them. Uh, Ben Grimm completely turned to stone, or his body is covered in stone. He gonna feel a little different, He's gonna look a little different. Sue Storm is now able to turn invisible occasionally, you know. Just and alongside that, she's got psychic powers, psionics. I'm still trying to figure that one out. How does psychic powers lead to invisibility or vice versa? Hmm. I know there was one run of the comics where they explained it as they all got one of the four elements. Ben Grimm gets rock, Johnny Storm gets fire, Sue Storm gets wind, and Mr. Fantastic gets water because he can flow around and he's kind of a liquid state. Okay, if they explain it that way, I'd like to know how that's tied into the science, because this is a very science focused comic book, or that's kind of what their origins were. And the way that particular run of comics, I can't remember who wrote that one, but that particular run of comics it kind of felt a little more mystical, the origin of their powers. I don't know. That's just me. But they all change drastically. And if it was me, if I was Reed Richards, yeah, I'd feel the same. I'd feel very, very responsible, especially for my best friend Ben Grimm. He can't live normally anymore. And we kind of see in the rest of the trailer, to a lesser degree, everybody else kind of has a similar feeling about this is things have changed drastically, but at the same time, they are the same people, right? These wild, amazing things happening to these people doesn't change the fact that they are the Fantastic Four in their sort of in their dynamic with one another. Uh, the next thing that we see after that sort of montage of what these people are now living with for the rest of their lives potentially is some sort of cataclysmic event like meteors flying down from the sky. Jeez, okay, that sounds dangerous, especially in a city like New York. Plenty of buildings could be falling, a lot of fire, brimstone, all of that. And you see these kids looking up at this potential destruction with Ben Grimm masks on. They have Fantastic Four merchandise on already. So the story is being told obviously from a point at which they've already been doing stuff. Something has happened before that the Fantastic Four has stopped, and they are just continuing along. So I guess the question is where do we get the conflict? Who really forms the conflict in this particular film? We get kind of a potential idea near the end of it, with the shadow of Galactus. He peers over New York City, and then you see his head kind of turn towards the Statue of Liberty, and you're like, ah, wait, but isn't he like much bigger than that? Like world eating size? Like pluck it like a grape and pop it into his mouth, sort of, right? That's that's the Galactus I know. So maybe things are changing a little bit as far as the canon for the Marvel Cinematic Universe and what all that's going to look like. But hey, it's it's a like we have some kind of idea of who's going to be a threat. Uh I guess that's better than nothing, but at the same time I'm like that's a big threat. Galactus? Off rip, we're not even talking about some low level, street level thugs with some kind of conspiracy. They might have been the cause of this sort of accident that changed the Fantastic Four into who they are. So, like, something a little less threatening than it's Galactus. Brother is the destroyer of worlds. He eats them for lunch. Literally, it's kind of his thing. So Fantastic Four immediately hopping into that's just a bit much for me. So I don't know. I guess if I had to summarize some good parts, it's a distinct style, distinct era. You can, if you show this movie, you point it out on the screen, it's like, oh, that's the new Fantastic Four movie. That's not that old one. It's not Van Forstick or any of those other ones. This is that new Fantastic Four movie because the setting, the style, the visual sort of language of the movie very different, and it matches this very traditional sort of family dynamic motif they're going for, despite the fact that they're not a traditional family in the least. Um, so that part was very strong for me. Um, Negatives, of course, as I mentioned, I'm not entirely sold on, like, if Galactus is the final villain of this movie, if it's the character that we are most concerned about in this particular movie, we're already ramping up the level of threat to like 10. And if this is the next phase of the Marvel universe, where where are we going to go from here? What are we already know what Galactus can do and how threatening he is as a force throughout the Marvel universe. We're not going to talk about Doom. I mean, Robert Downey Jr. is playing the character of Doctor Doom, so clearly we're not skipping over him, but where does he show up? I don't know. But that's kind of one of the things that stood out to me as I was watching the trailer, and I'm like, are we really going to make this a like this we're gonna turn this into another multiversal threat sort of situation by the end of all of this. And that just it's just too big. It's too big to feel the stakes, you know? I don't know. But that's just me. Been rambling for a little bit now. So I want to hear your comments. Comment about down below. Talk about whatever you feel about this particular trailer. I didn't have it here in the video, mostly because I haven't really earned that sort of clout yet, I guess. Don't want to take no risks. Could be copyright material, and that is well outside of my sort of capacity right now. So I encourage you, go watch the trailer elsewhere, come back, and uh yeah, comment down below. Actually, I'm gonna put the trailer in in the description so you can find it easily. All right. But aside from that, hope you have a great day, and I'll talk to you again next time. Peace.